One of the things that people hate about billionaires and extremely wealthy people is the fact that it looks like they're never satisfied. Their thirst, their hunger is never satisfied. And they move from hungry to greedy because we all have 24 hours, you know. We all have to sleep on one bed. You can only drive one car at a time. You can only enjoy one meal at a time. So why do you need to have 500 properties? Why do you need to have 20 cars? Why do you need to have 50 beds? You don't have the time. You don't have the energy to enjoy all of those things. So why not share with other hardworking people? We're not saying share with lazy poor people, but share with other hardworking people so that they can also share with other hardworking people. And ultimately, when the poor don't want to be lazy, or those of them who are lazy don't want to be lazy, they can also get some. Why not? Cyril Ramaphosa, Matamela, studied law, went to work, I think in the mining industry. And then at some point he was asked to become a union leader, and they set up the National Union of Mine Workers. And when it made sense, the big mining bosses, of the time, the Oppenheimers, the Harry Oppenheimers and other big mining bosses, they spoke to Cyril and some of the people at that time to make sure that there's some type of relationship. Almost makes sense. If you're a union leader, if you're setting up a union, you're going to be speaking to the mining bosses. You have to sit at the table and rationalize and reason for the benefit of the mine workers. But it looks like in these conversations, whether it was naturally who he was or whether it happened through spending time with some of these mining bosses, Cyril seemed to become like one of them. And they liked him. The way he spoke, the way he moved. And they almost handpicked him to be one of their golden boys. When the time was right, Nelson Mandela came out of prison and there needed to be CODESA negotiations on how a democratic South Africa could work. He became one of the lead negotiators. And he worked with Rolf Meyer as well from the other side. Fast forward a few years later, Cyril then becomes the chairperson of the BEE commission that they set up, Black Economic Empowerment. Not only did he become chair of this commission with some of the same guys from those unions leading, some of the other black people that had been handpicked to work with some of these big white business people. Not only was he chair of that commission, but himself and those people became beneficiaries of the same first big BEE deals. Of course, there were people like Dr. Ntato Motlana, etc. There was Nail. Later on from Nail came some of the people that set up the Black Business Council. Some of the people from NAFCOC, which was a huge Black African business community. A lot of them benefited from BEE very, very much upfront. So Cyril never got to be the deputy as Nelson wanted. It became Thabo Mbeki. And then he'd go on into business. And while he was in business, because of all these relationships he'd built, he got to sit on these boards. And I think at the peak, he was sitting on 18 boards. He was the chairman of Bidvest at some point. I think he sat on the board of MTN, sat on the board, I think it may have been of Standard Bank, may have been Liberty and some other big companies. Then he'd go and he'd set up a company, an investment company called Shanduka, to hold his shareholdings. Why was he given shares? He was given shares because he was this great negotiator from apartheid times to CODESA to BEE. But more importantly, because business people understand these things, he was able to open certain political doors that they couldn't. So he became the face. If you're the chairman of Bidvest, it becomes so much easier for Bidvest to get tenders from government. And to this day, I'd like to think Bidvest is one of the biggest tenderpreneurs in the country, along with some of the big construction companies, your Marion Roberts, as an example. You've got a company like Aspen, white Jewish owned by Stephen Saad, company like Aspen, which provided ARVs at some point when they were being rolled out. And today they provide the COVID vaccines under Johnson & Johnson as well. Cyril, there. We'd find out later that Cyril went and he married the sister of another big BE beneficiary, Patrice Motsepe, his wife, Dr. Tsepo Motsepe. Funny enough, the current minister, I think he might be the minister in the presidency, or he used to be, Jeff Radebe, also went and married a sister of Patrice Motsepe, Bridget Motsepe. Looks like there was some arranged, because you must understand, Cyril and Jeff were married before. So it's almost like they needed to let go of their wives to marry into this family. Because Patrice's father, Augustine Motsepe, had really good relationships with the mining bosses as well. In particular, the Hersoff and Manel families, big mining bosses in South Africa. And of course, Patrice became a beneficiary of these relationships and of BEE at that time. What value do you add sitting on 18 boards? What value do you add? You're closing the doors for so many other people. But of course, all those companies you sit on, they gain favor from government, not only in terms of tenders, but they probably also access funding because they've got you as a chairman. They are seen as transformed. Not only do they get funding, but some of the red tape is kind of pushed to the side so that you can benefit. Years later, then Cyril comes back into politics. And I think it's at a time when the same people that he'd been doing business with are saying, dude, we need you. This Jacob Zuma fellow is not really doing the things that we needed. This is not what we negotiated at CODESA. This is not why we gave you all these directorships and these chairmanships, yourself, your family, and some of your associates. I mean, you look at even the deal with sitting on the board of MTN, very good business partner of his, Uphuthuma Nhleko, seasoned businessman and entrepreneur in this country, under Pembani, which also has mining interests, which has, I think, fuel station interest in Engen. And you look now, Pembani is babysitting Shanduka on behalf of Cyril Ramaphosa so that he can come into politics as deputy president firstly, and then now as president of the country. And why is that not enough? At some point they said he was worth 700 million US dollars. That's a couple of billions of rands. Why is that not enough? The guy's got game farms. Tabanyoni, I think, is the most popular one. Now people know about Phala because of the scandal of finding foreign currency dollars there. He's still auctioning Ankole, of which he has a monopoly on importing Ankole, I think, from Uganda. Uganda, where his son Andile is married to a lady that was the daughter of one of the ministers. Again, it looks like arranged marriages because of maybe some economic interest or whatever the case may be. Is that not enough? Cyril goes now as the head of the war room at Eskom to try and fix load shedding. He goes and he signs a deal with Glencore. Glencore that has been deemed corrupt, paying billions of dollars around the world for certain favorable deals. He gets into bed with those people, and Shanduka has a special joint venture with Glencore. And so it gets to, I think he was the chair, if not just the director of that. That's how, of course, it didn't come out that he was bribed. Because, of course, he was getting director's fees. But he's got a leg into Eskom. He's there in charge. Of course, Glencore can now supply Eskom at a premium. Very expensive. Money that is being taken. Not only that, Saki Matozoma with Safika Oosthuizens, which is a trucking company, they get to move some of that coal. And Usaki, very big mates of Cyril, and I think he was the treasurer of the ANC. And when the BEE deals came out, he became one of the big beneficiaries, along with people like Mzi Khumalo, also in the mining space, Lazarus Zim in the mining space. Never mind your Trevor Manuels and his wife, Maria Ramos, in the financial space, ABSA, Old Mutual, etc. These are the people we're dealing with, Cyril. But is it not enough? You're a billionaire, you've got these game farms, you've got this wealth of a portfolio. But now you want to come into government and you want to disrupt it. When you get into government as president, you make sure that the COVID vaccines go to your mates. You make sure that the tenders keep going to your mates. Now when there's, I think it was oil or gas that was found in the Western Cape or in the Karoo somewhere. I think it was either Total or Shell. Cyril is there licking his lips because he knows him and his friends are going to be involved there. Like I said, Pembani, ya Phuthuma Nhleko, is going to be involved there. All of a sudden, Patrice, who was a mining mogul, comes in all of a sudden. Now he's going into energy. And out of the 25 licenses released, 12 of them fall under his company, NH. Who is releasing these licenses? None other but his brother-in-law, Jeff Radebe, under the presidency of another brother-in-law, Cyril Ramaphosa. Over 500 billion looted under COVID, under the guidance of Cyril Ramaphosa. Now we're dealing with an Eskom that needs to be split, or they're saying it needs to be split. Thabo Mbeki tried it back then when he had Zuma as his deputy. Today, Cyril is trying to hold on to that promise. We're going to privatize energy so that my brother-in-law Patrice can win, so that my business associate Uphuthuma Nhleko and all our other business giants are going to win. But that's not enough. Let me go and sign an $8.5 billion deal with America, with other companies in Europe, with other countries in Europe, so that this money can filter through my family members and my business associates. This is why people don't like billionaires and extremely wealthy people, because it seems they're greedy and they never have enough. They never have enough. And I made a video and my complaint was, we blame these people, but who is voting for the ANC? Who is wearing the yellow t-shirts saying, oh, Kongolose, Samano Kongolose, celebrating the Ankole faction in KZN, the RET faction, Yabo Ace Mahashule. You guys are voting for the ANC. You guys are buying from the same businesses and supporting the same businesses that are funding the ANC leadership to carry on doing what they're doing. These loans that are gonna come for energy, which we don't need. If you look at who's actually destroying the atmosphere, who's actually emitting all this carbon, it's Europe, it's North America, it's countries in Asia. It's not the African continent. You can go and research that now. But we're the ones that are spearheading this thing of moving from coal to alternative energy. The Germans have removed their alternative energy, their wind farms, and they've gone back to coal. The UK went back to coal. America's using fossil fuels, but South Africa must champion this thing. Why? When we've got 400 years of coal reserves. You smell a rat, but then you realize it's a toxic type of capitalism. It's greed. And it's destructive greed. And we keep quiet because we can't do anything. And mainstream media doesn't really say much because they captured. The same people that are funding Cyril own mainstream media. So they tell them what to report on. It's a very sad thing. And all the other ANC leaders, of course, if they're not getting money and brown envelopes, they have their eyes on smaller tenders and they focus on every other rubbish except serving the country. I've been working harder to move myself back from politics because it really gets me very angry and emotional and triggered. But I realize I can't do much for it. There's that prayer, God grant me the serenity, what, and the courage to what, and the things I cannot change. These are things I cannot change. But what I can do is I can make videos like this and tell you guys the truth about your leadership that so many people worship. And it saddens me because if you're not getting a tender under this administration, it means you've just been hoodwinked by mainstream media and maybe you're stupid. Yo, but Penal Brew, who's better than Cyril? Really? Out of 60 million people? Really? I'm better than Cyril. But of course, our political system is fucked. Our political system is designed in such a way that you can only vote for a political party, even though that is unconstitutional. And the guys that fought this won it at the Constitutional Court. It's unconstitutional that you have to vote for a party, that you have to join a political party so that you can run for office. We should be able to vote for independent people to represent us in parliament. And who should we vote for? We should vote for people with a track record. Imagine selectors, Bafana of the Proteas, of the Springboks, selecting players who have not done well for their provincial teams, the Sharks, Western Province, Pretoria, the Blue Bulls, the Lions, Free State Cheetahs, maybe the Kings in the Eastern Cape. You haven't performed at that level. You haven't performed at Super Rugby level against Australasia. But then they must select you. That's what we're doing. What has Cyril Ramaphosa done for the community he comes from in Soweto? What has Jacob Zuma done for the community he comes from in Nkandla? What has Ace Mahashule done? What has Nkosazana Dlamini Zuma done? What has Lindiwe Sisulu done? What have these people, even at John Steenhuisen, where he comes from, can you show a school that is built there or he's capacitated? Has he resolved some of the poverty in those areas? Do the people there have low unemployment? And not because they may be well-off white people, but because of work done by John Steenhuisen. What work has Bantu Olomisa done for where he comes from? Umangosutu Buthelezi with the IFP. What work have they done for where they come from? And after that little neighborhood they come from, what have they done for the city or the town that they come from? What have they done for the province? So that by the time they get to national, Uzwelim Kize or Lindiwe Sisulu that won positions now, can they show us their track record? Look at what I've done in my hometown. I've made sure that it's clean. I've made sure it's functional. There's no corruption. There are jobs, etc. That's why I moved up to the city. That's why I moved up to the province. And now I'm at national level because I have a track record. We want to vote for those people that are doing good work on the ground and can show at higher levels that they are capable. But we are distracted with so much nonsense, and the capitalists at the top, the Cyril Ramaphosas of this world, are so greedy, constantly licking their lips at what new money can we make. If it's no longer HIV/AIDS money, then all of a sudden becomes COVID money. When the COVID money is no longer there, oh, let's do this alternative energy money. When it's no longer alternative energy money, they're probably going to go into tech money or crypto money, because it's constantly about milking from everyone else. And what do you do when you have $1 billion? What do you do? Mark Zuckerberg lost $100 billion US in net value, net worth in the last year. But even if you gave that back to him, what can he do with $100 billion US? If you said, Mark, from now you're going to stop running Meta, Facebook, Instagram, WhatsApp, and we're saying for the rest of your life, we need you to spend this money. What is he going to do with that money that is going to give him a true enjoyment, value add? Bill Gates is going around the world trying to flex, eradicate disease in Africa, but at the same time, trying to make sure some of his mates are bringing these vaccines, going to other places, World Health Organization, trying to speak at the World Economic Forum, just trying to flex. But him with the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation are trying to keep themselves busy and trying to make an impact. Because they have too much money, they don't know what to do with it. Why are you so greedy? Why are you so greedy? Cyril and every other white, Indian, Chinese, black billionaire in this country, male and female. Why do you need so much money? Why do you constantly suck from the poorest of the poor? To what end? We've got a country with so much talent, pure talent. Kids that want to build 50 ESCOMs around the African continent. Kids that want to create internet. I mean, Cyril Ramaphosa and Shanduka at some point were involved. I think they're still involved with CCOM, which is an underwater Wi-Fi fiber deal, which Johan Rupert and Remco are involved in. I think Nedbank as a bank is financing Rand Merchant Bank, which Johan Rupert has a stake in. He's involved there as well. Cyril is involved in that. The kids want to be involved. If you see other things happening on the African continent, MTN in Nigeria, Cyril somehow with Shanduka, with Pembani, Putumantle, they're involved. Almost any big project, they're involved. Why? Do they have to be? They are talented kids that can do more than you. Cyril hasn't built a cell phone network. Cyril hasn't built a TV station like a DSTV. He hasn't actually created a pharmaceutical company. He hasn't built a bank. But there are talented young children of different races, of different nationalities, of different genders in this country and on this continent that are ready to build those things. On Tabeleng Gikhotsi with the YWBN Mutual Bank, they were saying we're going to build a bank. Shut down. Yet Patrice Motsepe can get an Australian time bank to come in. And overnight, snap your fingers like Thanos, boy. All of a sudden, it's got a bank. This is not what's best for humanity. What's best for humanity is to take the resources and to give them to talented kids. If the talented kid is a Mark Zuckerberg, if it's a Jeff Bezos, if it's a Jack Ma, by all means, give that kid the resources to build something special. Let them improve upon humanity. Let them come up with the cars that use solar, that use water, so that humanity can progress. But you guys are hoarding. Working with Glencore, Ivan Klassenberg, these corrupt guys. Because you just want to keep making more and more money. London mining, where people were killed in Marikana. It's sad. Like I said, there isn't much I can do. I'm trying to focus on what I can. My neighborhood where I live in Johannesburg. Trying to do a little bit where I can give back, where I come from in Newcastle. Trying to work with some of the communities in Johannesburg. Charity work, empowerment, education. Trying to reach out a hand to some of the young stars that you guys are seeing on social media that are running non-profit organizations, that are upskilling people, that are trying to push community gardening projects. Small basic manufacturing projects. People like Kandani Msibi who's trying to fund young kids that are innovative. People like DJ Spoo that's constantly trying to put on young kids. People like Rob Hersoff who, if you look at his company Invest Africa and if you speak to the people that work with him, the number of initiatives he's donated money to. Alternative energy, farming projects in the Eastern Cape. I just want to give a shout out to Shane Brody. He's doing amazing work with rural farmers in the Eastern Cape. I want to give a shout out to Andre Shearer, who's doing amazing work with communities around South Africa, in particular in the Western Cape, with impoverished communities, capacitating children, because he realizes that if we don't fix education for children at the earliest levels, we will lose them It will be too late when they're in their 20s as unemployed graduates smoking in Yaope. So let's start on the ground. Capacitating leaders like Gayton McKenzie in the Karoo. Trying to capacitate, getting onto platforms and saying we need to work together. But he gets bashed. As a beneficiary of a legacy business, the Hersoff mining and industry empire, he's trying to do his bit. And when some of us are saying, Rob, instead of just being greedy and making a lot of money and becoming rich, let's collaborate. Let's see if we can take some of your resources, some of your family's resources, and let's build and work. Tutuzane Zuma, the son of Jacob Zuma, is trying to see and create networks with the Middle East, some of his friends in the United Arab Emirates, some of the South African business people, and he's saying, I'm rolling up my sleeves. I come from a father who's a president. I myself have been in business. I've made good money, etc. Yes, I've been dragged with the Guptas, etc. I've gone to court. I haven't been found guilty of anything, but I'm willing to roll up my sleeves and cut grass at a school and rake and get dirt and pick up dirt. As privileged as I am, I'm trying to give back. That's exemplary. Those are the people that need to be capacitated. Nhlanhla Lux, Soweto Parliament is hosting the Township Olympics, saying, let's capacitate our kids so they're not infested with drugs and alcohol and they're doing something positive. These guys get bashed. Ian Cameron, another person that Rob has also helped out as well. Ian Cameron Action Society patrolling Emakasi, where Odaki, the leaders, are meant to be patrolling. Patrolling work done by Soweto Parliament as well. These are the people we need to help. And we need, and I keep begging, more and more of you out there, wherever you may be, Wamashu, Emlazi, Mdantsani, Nyanga, Langa. Places like Mafikeng, Pulukwane, Rustenburg. Obviously, you've got your Alex, Tembisa, Deep Sloot, Soweto. Maninga Makazi, Mpumalanga. You've got Free State, Okwakwa. Those places. Northern Cape, Okurumano, Kimberley. Eastern Cape, Gqeberha, Motherwell, New Brighton, Emakande, Khini. We need each and every one of you out there. You're young, maybe you're educated, maybe you know some rich business people in your area, maybe you know some rich people somewhere else, but you have ideas and you've got kids that are sitting. Take the initiative, get up. Be like, let me speak to these people that own these businesses. Could be a butchery, it could be a supermarket, they could own a shopping center, they could be doing tenders. Be like, hi, I know you guys have money. I'm a young leader. We're hoping that you guys can give us some resources. We want to fix our neighborhood. We want to turn this neighborhood into the next Sandton, into the next Mhlanga, into the next Camps Bay, into the next Dubai, into the next Hong Kong, into the next Seoul, into the next Toronto, into the next New York. We want to turn that place into that, and we need you guys to help us capacitate the youth. We need some money for our gardening projects. We just need to buy some shovels and some seeds. We need some money to buy fruit trees to plant Emakasi. We need some money to fix potholes somewhere. Shout out to AfriForum and the work that they're doing. We need young people that are passionate, and old people, of course, if they still have their energy, to put their hands up and to say, fuck politics, fuck politicians, and fuck billionaires that are greedy. I want to do good work in my community. Forget the rest of South Africa. In your community, and make your community first world. And then you can move to the next level. Those are going to be the leaders of the future. And some of us are going to keep pushing to dismantle this political system, because I want us to vote for individuals that can sit in parliament. Individuals with a track record, not of sitting on boards because of BEE, not track records of working with corrupt billionaires around the world, a track record of serving the people on the ground from your own neighborhood. Those are the people that should be sitting in parliament. Those are the people that are going to take this country, this continent, and the rest of the world forward into a brighter future. Pin you all the black pen. Have a great day.